Will Hocus Pocus 2 bewitch its audiences, or will it be another failed attempt by Disney at reigniting some nostalgia?
Lock up your children! Yes, Salem, we're back!
What's up, everybody? Your friendly neighborhood Tony here, and today we are going to do a quick movie review of the latest sequel to Hocus Pocus, Hocus Pocus 2. That's right, after almost 30 years, the Sanderson Sisters are returning to modern-day Salem, and it's up to 3 young girls to stop them from wreaking havoc on the world. Now, as I'm sure with many of you, for me, Hocus Pocus, the original from 1993, was an absolute staple in my life, particularly around the Halloween season. And I am definitely aware that Disney has kind of fumbled a lot of the remakes and all the reintroductions that they've been doing to these older franchises. So I went into watching this movie with a little bit of skepticism and kind of with my expectations in check. And after watching it, I have to say, I mostly liked it. Now here's the thing I want to be very clear about. The original Hocus Pocus, although it holds a very special place in my heart and probably in yours too, it's not Schindler's List, okay? It's not Citizen Kane. It's not any of those great dramatic films. It's a kid's Halloween movie, right? So let's not get it twisted. Let's put that into perspective before we jump into this one and judge this one. And I say that because, in my view, this version of Hocus Pocus is really just as good as the original. In fact, if I was a kid today and you introduced me to this particular movie, I think I'd probably love it just as much. So what about this movie makes it as good as the original, in my opinion? Well, for one, they brought back the original trio. You've got Kathy Najimy, Sarah Jessica Parker, and of course Bette Midler, all reprising their roles as the original Sanderson sisters, except now 30 years later. And I have to say, Bette Midler looks fantastic. She looks exactly the same as I remember her in the original movie. This particular version is directed by Fletcher, who I wasn't familiar with at first, but when I looked her up, it looks like she has done a lot of work specifically as a choreographer, which I thought was a little odd going into the movie, but after watching it, you definitely see why they hired her for the role. Although I wouldn't say Hocus Pocus 2 is a musical or anything like that, there are a couple, or really I guess 3 scenes where they have musical numbers and dance sequences. Now that is something I think they could have easily gone overboard with and transformed this movie into a musical, but they really showed some restraint, and in those moments, especially as you get later on into the film, you actually kind of start to enjoy them. I think the first dance and song number was a little jarring for me, and I wasn't sure where we were going with it, but especially the second one, and then there's one in the credits. They were kind of fun and I really liked them. And as far as the new characters that are introduced in this movie, the 3 girls that are going to be the main leads, I think they're very good. They were all very likable, acted very well. I don't know about their particular story. Again, I'm looking at this from a guy who's in his 30s, so I might not be the target audience for this, but I did feel that some of the things that occurred with those characters and their arc were just a little over the top or a little unbelievable, even though, of course, this is a fantasy film, so it's all going to be unbelievable in a way. Also, just as a funny note, there's this one character who is supposed to be a, I think, 16-year-old boy. My dude looks like he is very much in his mid-20s. It is not even close. They also do a very interesting thing in this movie that does differ from the original, and that is, without spoiling anything, they kind of make you start to feel a little bit more for the Sanderson sisters. In fact, a lot more, I would say, which I'm not sure how I feel about that. In the original movie, they were clear, cut and dry villains. They were bad people doing bad things, and that was that. And I kind of like the simplicity of that. But in this movie, they kind of, both in the beginning and towards the end, do this thing where they are trying to make you understand where they're coming from, which I don't want to understand where they're coming from. They're bad people that are trying to eat children. Like, that's not somebody that I want to sympathize with. So it was a little odd, a little jarring that they were going that route with the movie, and it becomes very clear right from the beginning. The opening sequence, it's clear that they're trying to make you sympathize with these characters. So that part I was a little turned off at, but I think if you don't have the reference point of the original movie, that's actually going to fit more. Because I've seen the original so many times, and I know that these are just bad people, I kind of went into it with my own bias that, well, I don't want to like them, they're bad. But if I were to show this, say, to my niece or nephew who've never seen the original, I think they would totally love it and probably sympathize with these characters. Again, I want to be clear though, my view on this, I'm not the target audience. I am, an adult man who is maybe a little bit jaded, so please take my perspective with a grain of salt. Really, This movie is the kind of movie that you can absolutely show to your kids, and I think they're gonna love it. It's definitely gonna be cheesy, but so was the original if you go back and look at that. In addition to that though, in addition to the story and the characters, this was wonderfully shot. It looks really good. They do a lot of special effects in this movie, far more than I think they had in the original movie, and I don't know how much money they spent on this, but you can tell that they definitely put some money into the special effects. And not just the special effects, but the set design, some of the musical numbers that they have in this film, you can just really tell that they were not skimping on anything when they produced this. So yeah, as far as remakes, reboots, sequels to old Disney films, this is one of the best. I absolutely enjoyed it. I would definitely recommend you check it out if you enjoyed the original Hocus Pocus movie, and if you have some little ones yourself, you might even be able to start with this movie as opposed to going back and having them watch the original first. In fact, I think it might make sense to have them start with this one because it does take place in modern time, so it's probably going to be a little easier for young kids to connect with the characters. And then after you show them this movie, you can let them know that there was one that came out when you were a kid and show them that one. And this could be like a really cool way for the family to come together on Halloween. I absolutely love it. I think it's great what Disney is doing here. And unfortunately, I don't get to say that as often as I'd like. So Hocus Pocus 2 is an absolute recommendation from me to you. Definitely check it out. It is streaming on Disney Plus right now, and I think it's something that the whole family can enjoy. But let me know, do you like this movie? Have you seen it? Are you a fan of the original? And since we're getting to that time of year, what's your favorite family or child Halloween movie to watch? So nothing too crazy, no Halloweens or Freddy's or anything like that. What is a good family Halloween movie? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one. All right, be good.